So all the design came from imagination of human beings. So the building looked like organic life.
We are attracted as human beings by great design.
People are proud to live in a building that makes an architectural statement.
An architect is an artist. I think people enjoy the work of artists.
It's pretty obvious that people are into design.
Good design not only sells, but it sells at a premium in the marketplace. Well, we always knew that this parcel of land at the corner of Burnhamthorpe and 10 was an important intersection for the city.
The location is center ice within Mississauga. The developers had wanted to do something very special.
We felt that the highest and best use would be a residential building. And so one day I happened to be golfing with Ed Sajaki. I said, Ed, what about an international design competition?
And we were very excited when they said they were giving consideration to going to an international design competition. My staff fully embraced this idea.
I was excited about it. The staff was excited about it when we heard what Fernbrook and Cityzen were going to do with an international contest.
It was an idea that took on a life of its own. None of us could have anticipated the response that it would receive, not only from the city of Mississauga, but globally.
Something new in architecture.
In Mississauga.
Il condominio dovrebbe diventare il simbolo.
通过这幅图想象一下我们今天请到的。
I like the Absolute for a couple of reasons. First of all, I like the way they did it. The fact that there was a competition. I've never heard of such a thing.
No one believed that a private sector company would ever do that, expose themselves in such a fashion. Not only did it bring this cross-section of designs from all over the world, it brought attention to the project on a global scale. And it wasn't long before we received well in excess of 600 registrations. And from there, we received 92 submissions.
We never expected to have such a result. We were overwhelmed.
And then it was left up to the jury to decide who the finalists were.
There was ultimately 6 that were shortlisted.
We kept the finalists under wraps up until the time of the presentation to the public, and we had a ceremony at BCE Place. The finalists were then presented to the public.
That same exhibit was basically taken on a bit of a road show.
And the public was asked to comment on what their favorites were.
When I attended the presentation, they were very unique, very different, and I wondered which one would be chosen.
I remember one day we got an email, but when I opened, I saw congratulations. Mississauga has ambition to build a future. So I think the question is, what's the future city look like? In the high-density urban context, we should introduce nature. So I was quite sure our tower shouldn't be another memorial or symbol for the strength or power. We should introduce this beautiful curve, the softness.
I think it is trying to connect with nature and to be at one with nature, the ebb and flow of life.
I like the way it changes as you move around it. The view is slightly different.
So the building looked like organic life.
When this one was chosen, I wondered, can it be built?
From the very beginning, there was a lot of doubt in the community as to whether or not this would ever get built.
I was extremely confident with our partners at Cityzen and our construction crew at Dominus, and the consultants that we hired were number one.
But it was also important to have a local architect, and so we ended up pairing Yansong Ma with a local firm.
Transfer into the lobby. It was my task to kind of bring it into the real world and to figure out, in conjunction with the structural engineer, how we're going to make it stand up.
In order to eliminate thermal break, to isolate the balconies.
I wanted us to be true to the original design, and I made that very clear to the design team from the very start.
Consultants are an integral part of any project, but on this one in particular, because it was such a complicated building, there were daily meetings.
So we now had this great design, but we needed to sell the units.
The marketing team that we had assembled created the interest among the buyers. Mississauga had not seen something like this before, and they were ready for it.
I mean, it was a mad rush. I need to buy a unit in this building.
I mingled with the crowd prior to us opening the doors, and I've never felt that kind of buzz.
On the first weekend that we opened the sales office, we pretty much sold out the building. And so at that point, we decided that we were going to move quickly forward with the design of the next phase. And we sold that out in a matter of a couple of days as well.
Usually we spend 3 to 4 months before we start digging. I think we spent close to a year before we started digging with this project.
Obviously, structurally, that was the biggest challenge. Every floor was different.
Each level, every level, starting from ground floor to the 56th floor, basically it was building a floor-by-floor project, starting right from scratch, and every floor was always unique. And it wasn't only the structure, it was every discipline of construction had to deal with what was next.
And have you dealt with the wall forms and the pipe space in this particular area here?
Yeah. It's very innovative, and we had to be innovative on our side. Innovative in the techniques, the details, and taking out their thinking caps and dealing with every part of construction, from concrete to windows to kitchens to electrical, mechanical. Whenever there was a challenge, everybody got involved in it.
We got a lot of great response from the city.
There was a lot of toing and froing between my staff and the consultants and engineers.
With permits, construction details, engineering, they're also part of the team.
In hindsight, without that involvement and without that interest, again, projects like this won't happen.
Everyone worked together to make the building happen.
It very much is true to the architectural intent that Yansong Ma had when he first made his submission.
Many people thought we would fail, but here it is.
In your career, you only get, I think, probably only one time in your lifetime that you're going to build something like this, and it was something that we wanted to all do.
It's so wonderful that the private sector took the initiative.
I really would hope that other cities would now take a look at this and see what Hazel has been able to do with her collaboration with us.
The city's openness to zoning was a catalyst.
It allowed this creative expression to be entertained in a serious way by business.
The opportunity was rare, not only for me, but also for a city like Mississauga.
Modern architecture goes, one of the finest buildings in the world. I mean, and it's being acknowledged that way.
These buildings are helping to shape that image for Canada.
The absolute is the most striking condo design that I've seen in my time at the Star.
Mississauga now has a skyline, and it's punctuated by these spectacular buildings.
And I think that shapes the image that we have abroad.
Everybody in our team is so proud of this program.
The outcome is worth every sleepless night.
We're hoping the building also can be a symbol for a future city.
On behalf of my partners at Fernbrook Homes, Cityzen Development Group, and Dominus Construction Group, it is an honor to be here today. The caliber of buildings that are being recognized at this conference offers great optimism for the future of our cities. Innovation in design and construction are not just giving our cities a new look and feel, but more importantly, they are catalysts for new civic engagement. Civic leaders who embrace the importance of innovation in design do so because they understand the economic development potential. They recognize that in order to compete in a globally competitive market where labor and capital move freely, a city must be defined by a sense of place. They understand that those cities who define themselves through innovation will be the ones who attract the best and the brightest. But that innovation will only take place if we are willing to take risks and embrace different ways of imaging and building the places where we live work, and play. Because design does matter. And conferences like this are the key to providing the inspiration necessary to keep challenging our industry. I'd like to take a few minutes to share with you some of the insight into the Canadian context. In Canada, over 80% of our population live in an urban area. However, given the vastness of our geography, we have embraced urban sprawl over intensification. But that is starting to change in a major way. In Toronto alone, we have over 180 buildings currently under construction. This level of interest in intensification has to do with a number of factors: changing demographics, increasingly frustrating traffic gridlock, and government policy that has curbed sprawl through the implementation of a permanent green belt around the city. So the challenge for our industry is to respond with a new urbanism to create the kind of communities that resonate with the public not accustomed to vertical living. Specifically, we need to find ways to create livable high-rise spaces that deliver a low-rise feel, offer more customizable options, bridge indoor and outdoor living into a high-rise context, and, most importantly, meet all these requirements with innovative design that can define a sense of space and engage the community. This last challenge is perhaps the most important because in all human endeavors, it is the emotional connection that proves the most powerful. In a civic context, it is that connection that translates into the pride of ownership and pride of place. It is about giving people a sense that they belong. I'm very proud of the work we did in developing the absolute world to respond to all of these challenges. It was a tremendous success in the market because it offered something different, both practical functionality and an intangible emotional connection. The buildings are part of a master plan community of 5 towers that together have created a sense of community and neighborhood. Absolute World offered customized units with balconies and access to recreational and retail facilities. But it was the emotional connection the public felt from the design that defines Absolute World's success. The city of Mississauga now has a true landmark that its residents take great pride in, whether they live there or not. Our experience with the Absolute World has proven that developers need to take risks when it comes to design, and municipalities need to work with those developers willing to take the risks. The Absolute World was built on partnerships. Our partnership with the municipal government was critical, and it was mutually beneficial. And the idea of partnership extended to every discipline involved in the construction. These partnerships allowed for important innovations and technical breakthroughs. As you saw in the video, these buildings have an irresistible, curvaceous appeal. While they are not a traditional building shape, they are a familiar form. Nothing like this has ever been built in Canada before or under our building code requirements. We were breaking ground in more ways than one. The first and tallest tower starts to twist from below and increases its rotation up to 8 degrees. The cumulative floor plate rotation is 209 degrees. For the second tower, the rotation was 4 degrees for every floor for a total cumulative floor plate rotation of 200 degrees. It meant that every single floor would be slightly different. This sense of movement is also what gives the building their unique sense of style. They appear to be forever in motion and don't look the same from any 2 vantage points. Maintaining the integrity of the design required different ways of building. The rotation in the floor plates and the wrapping balconies created unprecedented thermal transfer issues, both vertically and horizontally. We were committed to finding solutions without compromising any of the design features. Our team developed a breakthrough proprietary solution that minimized transfer issues to within acceptable levels while protecting the integrity of the original design. Furthermore, the rotation of the floor plates also created unique forming challenges because we could not use traditional fly tables. Not only did our team innovate a solution that maintained structural integrity, but they did so without ever compromising worker safety or efficiency. The project remained on time and on budget. Our consultants were the key to finding proprietary solutions to the obstacles. They were invested in the success of this project, as was the community. The Absolute is a story about innovation. Innovative thinking is at the heart of these buildings, from the initial design competition to the partnership with the city, to the architecture, to the construction. These buildings say a lot about the community that hosts them. It is a community embracing a new urbanism. Mississauga is one of the most ethnically diverse communities in the world, and the residents all take pride in knowing that they belong. The Absolute World is a testament to them and to their future as a leading internationally recognized city. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Joe, for the introduction and the presentation. I'm going to show some photos and showing some history of the project. I'm the architect. My name is Ma Yansong. I'm from Beijing, China. Talking about this project, I had to start from 9/11 because I did something after 9/11 for the World Trade Center in New York. And this was actually my student work. So in 2002, we were talking about what the future city, what the future high-rise could be. Because all the modern high-rise, the core of the high-rise was about efficiency, about the duplication, it's about technology. The biggest symbol was old World Trade Center, the Twin Towers. But we were imagining something more organic, more like this one. This one shows a horizontal connection between all the vertical towers, and there's a park on the top of it. So we're trying to introducing nature into our cities. Of course, at that time, we didn't know any structural engineer, and we don't know how to do this. And then later, we're talking about, because I'm from China. In China, we have a lot of new towers, new cities are being built. We're talking about the future city as well. So is there a possibility to introduce more humanity and nature into our high-rise? Because in the modern time, there's a motto says a building is a machine for living, right? But do we all like to live in the machine in the future? And then we participated in this competition. Very luckily, we won the competition. This photo was taken, very happy event. And then the very abstract image of the proposal. And the tower got a nickname, Marilyn Monroe Tower. That was I remember from the Canadian media. I was happy that I didn't think it that way when we designed the building. But I was thinking it's interesting, people link a high-rise tower with a female human body. And then, then we saw all the interesting discussion, debates about the proposal. Actually, the competition was not only voted by the professional juries, also voted by the local citizens. So the proposal was chosen actually based on the public opinion. And then we start to figure out how to build it. We've been through all these technical challenges, but it's not something I want to focus today. You see, we are building this model in China with a Chinese woman next to it. And then you can see in the end, we develop all the floor plates. They're typical floor plate, but they're rotating on different level. And we have to keep the structure very simple and straight. So structure is actually concrete structure, and the plan is rotating. So we end up with a lot of different layouts. This is the final rendering. As Joe said, the marketing was very successful. Then we had to design the second one. Then the second one is very interesting because two towers make an urban space rather than only one sculpture. And here's the two towers. They look different, but they look like a sister. So they belong to same family. But it's different from all the other twin towers around the world because following the modern philosophy, all the towers are about duplication, all the floors are same. And if you do twin tower, they are also same. So we want to do slightly different. We're using same floor plan, but we changed the rotation rules. So we make two towers. Here's the final rendering for the towers. And then construction began. And here you can see two towers start to grow. And they started taking the shape. The design not only using a curve language, but also introduce balconies on each level. So every unit, no matter it's a big unit or a small unit, they all have a big terrace, big balcony. And when you twist the floor, a lot of balcony, they actually have opportunity to open to the sky because they rotating. And those balconies, they actually providing the sun shading naturally. So in this tower, we don't have any expensive material or so-called advanced technology. I think we trying to use very mature technology to achieve architecture. Because I think today, what high-rise needs is to be architecture. Because as I said before, I don't believe high-rise is something we can challenging for high technology because now human go to Mars. It's not like 100 years ago. I don't think human can show their imagination or ambition by just building high. Now we're trying to change the cityscape because we have two towers, and when you look at them, they all from different angle, they always look different. And this lot of photos during the construction. Actually, a lot of photos was not taken by us. I just found on the internet because so many people, they just post their photos. So I can easily check the construction site from Beijing. You can see the two towers start to change the skyline of the city. We very much interested in how a high-rise related to human being, because like some people said, high-rise cannot avoid to be a symbol of achievement of capitalism or power, because only when they become a memorial of capitalism and power, they cannot avoid to be isolated from human beings. So that's why a lot of people, they may scared by a lot of landmarks, but they don't really love them. And we're trying to make the tower more human. They're not tall, but they're, I think, maybe because people, they like Marilyn Monroe, so they like the tower more. But anyway, the tower shows a lot in the media, even before it's complete. And I can find all the weird photos on the internet just by some people with creativity. By some artists, they took a photo, and a lot of local citizens, they also like to post their photos. And some drawing by local kids. They capture the tower very accurately. The two towers look different. In the TV program, people already they already shoot the tower. Talk shows, and this is how people start to some people already move in the tower. This is how they use the balconies. Here's some photograph. You can see the surrounding. The city is a very new place. It's not Shanghai or New York. So I think it's kind of a more important. We set up this standard at this moment, because in the future this city will become more dense and more people and more high rise, and I think they should not follow the typology of Chicago or New York. Same thing in China, because China, also Middle East, building a lot of high rise. Exactly, they're facing the same challenge. So I was so happy to show the last presentation, the creativity can happen in those places. You can see the Toronto downtown in the far. So this actually a satellite city of Toronto. You can see the contrast between a typical residential building and the new absolute tower building. This is a view from the bottom, from the top. So from this photo, you can see the two towers, they have a dialogue. They have a different shape, and you can see the other tower from your balcony, and the other people in the other tower can see you. I think it's an interesting relationship. Here, when you look down, you can see the balconies below. Actually, every balcony, they could have this open ceiling. And this quite recent photo, people, they start to enjoy the balconies. They use balconies in different way. You can see the difference between this tower and the other, more like traditional residential towers. Here, the most important intersection in the city. So you can see two streets and how important this building locates. I was so impressed that the city was a developer. They were very open, and the competition was very open. It's very ideal proposal, and the height was not so restrict. And the second tower, they asked the architect for the proper proportion. So in a lot of cities, this is not so allowed. Here's the last photograph. I think when a high-rise belongs to a future or from architect's eye, belongs to the future, but if you can bring the future into the city, and when you look at how people actually using them, or how they have an emotional connection to it, I think it's more important. So we'll look more interested, look at how this city or this area develop in the future. Thank you very much.